So the next thing that I think we're going to go ahead and talk about as far as how color operates in a piece of art is the use of tint and shading. Tinting is any color that you come up with that you made using white, the addition of white. When you add white to a color, it tends to desaturate. Now, desaturation is basically pulling color out of a hue, so it pastels it out, it lightens it considerably, and a lot of times it makes it more opaque. If you're using something like titanium white or the quick dry white we usually have in the art room. Now there's some really weak whites, like zinc white is a very transparent weak white, and that has its own uses. But for our class, all we have is the titanium white, which is automatically going to make your color a lot more opaque, and it's going to lighten it out, desaturate it, then desaturate it. So what happens when we employ that, and just to see what it does, this is basically, I think we all know what happens when we add white and yellow, right? So we end up with a desaturation effect, right? Where this color is lightening to a degree where it's still yellow, but it definitely is distinguishable from its yellow. It's from that base yellow that we had before. Oh geez, I'm running out of paper towels. All right. Then when we take white again, and you see how this is all going to go, right? You get a more a much lighter orange. I'm not really paying attention to how much white I'm adding in here, but that's okay. And then we go over here, and then we can go a little more white over here. It starts to pink out quite a bit, right? Lightening, if you want to lighten your red, what you're actually going to do is you're going to add yellow, not white, because adding white to red will automatically make a fleshy pinky tone. So that's kind of the effect of a tint on an otherwise unaltered color. It's going to be pasteling it out. You're going to create a range of pastel colors that are kind of useful in things like skies and sunsets and skin tones and stuff like that. So when we add a shade to something, and you can probably guess what this means, right? So adding a shade is adding black, which I actually didn't get out before, so I'm just gonna take a second and put some black down. So when I add just a smidget of black, black is a monster, so be careful. You don't want to go overboard with the monster black. I'm going to go over here just so we can see the difference. It shades it down, right? And very often you're going to get a green tone because most blacks have blue in them. And as you can see, putting a shade on that hue of orange makes what many would call a straight up green, right? Kind of like a olive-y kind of green or whatever, okay? So if I go back down here, do the same. Now making a series of tints is a lot easier than making a series of shades because you have to be very careful with the way you use your black. There are many palette structures that use black as a go-to color. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Zorn palette, but it was developed by an artist. His last name was Zorn. I don't remember his first name, but he employed that as a something you would use in place of blue, because most black has quite a bit of blue in it, so you would actually use black as a blue to alter skin tones, because you get these interesting neutral colors. And by neutral colors, I think you can tell what I mean. It's just a color that sitting side by side here has a relationship, but a color sitting out of its context with this kind of shade would appear just to be sort of a garden variety of gray. And that's kind of a shade. You can't really tell it too well from the background here on this side. I use a recycled canvas, so it was toned in a less desirable way, but that's all I happen to have on hand at the time, so that's what we get. All right, so we have tint, hue, and shade. Knowing these terms isn't going to make you a better painter, but recognizing them will. So if you know when to add black to your color, to put a shade on it, or to add white to a color, to put a tint on it, you're going to be much happier in this class, and you're going to have a much more successful piece of work. And the cat didn't even interrupt us this time. What the heck?